Welcome back to part 3 of Cambodian Buddhism. Following on from part 2, the Cambodian Middle Age can be said to have ended in 1847. The influence of Thai courtly and religious culture, combined with declining Vietnamese influence, encouraged a renaissance of Theravada Buddhism. As the 20th century unfolded, splits between modernist and traditionalist Buddhist sects began to surface in Cambodia. The French intervention in Buddhist education highlighted these tensions, frustrating the traditionalists and promoting the modernists. 19th century preoccupations with merit, power, and the cosmic biography of the Buddha were de-emphasized, as modernist renderings of purification located in meaningful Buddhist values in the here and now. If you are finding this video interesting, then please subscribe to this channel by clicking on the icon at the lower right-hand corner of your screen, and also click on the notification bell. That way you'll be alerted every time I upload a new video, and you'll be able to follow me in my various investigations of whatever strikes my interest at any particular time. Traditional Khmer cosmology had fused a panoply of localized spirits with Buddhism. Shiva, Vishnu, and other Brahmanic and Hindu deities were included, as were animist beliefs. The French colonial administration felt threatened by the diversity and independence of Cambodia's monastic community. Before proceeding any further, these are my sources. Cambodian Buddhism, History and Practice by Ian Harris. Cambodge by Penny Edwards. The Cultivation of a Nation, 1860 to 1945. How to Behave, Buddhism and Modernity in Colonial Cambodia, 1860 to 1930, by Anne Ruth Hansen. And finally, Selected Papers on Chimerology, or Chimerology, by Severus Powell. Now, back to the action. High colonialism in Cambodia emphasized the secular and steered faith away from the inner workings of the soul toward a new conception of Cambodian culture. The cosmic aura of the monastic community was diminished by these interventions, and divisions were created between urban and rural forms of Buddhism. Traditional Theravada Buddhism stressed a profound and rational worship of the Buddha. He was praised as the teacher, and the ethic lesson of his teaching, his extreme compassion, and his perfection were emphasized. This ethic note continues to pervade Cambodian art and literature today. But a revamping of Cambodian Buddhism began to take place in the early 20th century. Arguing that traditional Buddhist texts had been contaminated by later embellishments, thinkers such as Chuan Nath and Huot Thath began to retranslate ancient religious texts to make them more accessible to lay people. This new current of religious thought was motivated by an idea of authenticity. They aimed to penetrate the ancient texts to arrive at a greater clarity and understanding. This is Wat Unalom in Phnom Penh. Founded in 1443, it is one of the most important Buddhist pagodas in Cambodia. And not only that, but it was here in the early 20th century that many of the main ideas of Buddhist modernism were fermented. It's quite a large complex. Look, complete with hens and dogs. In their embrace of empirical methods of scholarship and their rejection of superstition, the modernists stressed the importance of personal engagement with and reflection on the Buddha's teaching. They sought a more socially engaged practice. A hen or a rooster? Are you going in to pay tribute to the Buddha? Are you? This new path of religious thought would enable individuals to find the right path in the modern world. The traditionalists, however, held that palm leaf manuscripts were physically potent objects worthy of veneration in their own right, to be used for ritual and religious purposes as a source of merit. Whereas moral development in the 19th century had been built around ideas of the purification of the Buddhas, the idea of the Buddha to come, the modernists reshaped ideas of purification along rational and moral grounds. For Buddhists who wish to become pure, the cultivation of awareness, perception, and understanding was paramount importance. Modernists developed ideas of a distinctive Khmer culture and national religion. This in turn led to forms of modernist literary transformation and a more localized Theravada religious imagination. For the individual, purification depends upon the ability to live within a web of social interactions and remain undiminished by the corruptions of everyday life. Mature moral agency is achieved only by cultivating careful moral discernment in their relationship with others, because living in the world involves living with others. Good moral behavior involves disciplining the body, words, heart, and mind through a deep engagement with authentic Buddhist texts. That is, texts clarified and rendered intelligible by modernist translations. These also provided the intellectual space for the expression of Khmer culture, history, language, literature, and architecture, as well as a questioning of the French colonial presence. By the 1930s, the glorification of Angkor, as well as the development of a national style of architecture and dress, had led to a reified notion of Khmer culture. As a separate national identity, Cambodia no longer could be part of Indochina. As a result, several insurrections occurred during the 1930s. These expressed the revolutionary demands of Kampuchea. Convinced that Cambodia's future would be socialist, in 1952 Prince Sihanouk introduced a form of Buddhist socialism. By the 1960s, Cambodian communists began distancing themselves from Buddhism. Increasingly, the Communist Party of Kampuchea began to regard monks as feudal parasites and instead began to promote the virtues of the peasantry. Following the coup that removed Sihanouk from office in 1970, Cambodia began to slide towards civil war. Buddhism was seriously impeded by this war. Many monasteries were damaged and monastic life was seriously disrupted. The American bombing of eastern Cambodia further compounded these difficulties. After the Khmer Rouge assumed power in 1975, senior Buddhist monks began to be purged. By December 1975, most monasteries were closed. Sacred texts were burned and thrown into rivers, and Buddhist images were smashed. This to the refrain of, "If you demolish a statue of the Buddha, you will be given a bag of cement." And so the Khmer Rouge set the stage for the elimination of Buddhism in Cambodia. But Cambodian Buddhism outlasted the Khmer Rouge, who were removed from power by the Vietnamese. Cambodian Buddhism then set about rebuilding its shattered legacy. Thank you for watching, and if you found this video useful, then please subscribe to this channel by clicking on that icon at the bottom right hand corner. When you do that, a little bell icon might come up too. Click that also. That will notify you every time I upload a new video, and there'll be plenty to come.